Thank you. This is a wonderful event. Thank you so much to the host tribe for hosting this. And beautiful facility, wonderful people, and I've had a wonderful time. And it's been great to hear from Tony and Chris and people who run independent convenience stores and how they're competing, because they're competing against big national players, big regional players. And I love to hear about their success and about what they're doing in order to succeed in their specific areas. And I hope today we can discuss more options for how independent convenience store operators and small groups, how you can outmaneuver your regional and national um, competition. So we'll get into that a little bit later, but thank you again for hosting. Thank you again for having the opportunity for me to come speak and represent Swire. And let's jump into it. Okay. So a quick agenda. We're going to do an introduction very fast, and then we're going to start really high level. What is the state of convenience retail right now nationwide? And then we're going to dive down specifically into NARTD. And I should have started with this because it's not an easy acronym. NARTD is non-alcoholic, ready-to-drink beverages. So this morning we've heard a lot from on the alcoholic side about what's growing, what's trending. This is all non-alcoholic, okay? And then we'll start diving into some trends. And then I'm excited to talk about assortment methodology with you guys, because this is probably the best opportunity that I see for you guys to outmaneuver your competition. And so we'll talk about what those are and what it takes to have best-in-class assortment. So this is the geography map for Swire. So Swire is a Coca-Cola bottler, and we have the exclusive rights to distribute and sell Coca-Cola within this geography that you see on the map. Basically, it's anything Denver West except for California and Las Vegas that has population. So we try and go after the population areas. And just so you know, Swire might not mean a lot to the people in this room, but just a very quick history, Swire is a very old company. It's 200 years plus old. It was started in 1816, just 4 years after the War of 1812, which is crazy to think of. And, their business was an English shipping company shipping raw materials to the United States. And when the American Civil War disrupted that trade flow, they established trading routes to the east, to Asia, and to China. And currently, Swire's headquarters are in Hong Kong. So it is still a privately owned company, still run by a Swire. They are in hospitality, they are in shipping, they are in airlines, they are in property development, and they're in the beverage business with Coca-Cola. So we have a lot of benefits from being a part of this great company. And one of them is that we're private. We're privately held. And so when we have opportunities to invest with our customers or to invest in technology to become data forward, then we have the ability to do those things, whereas some publicly traded companies are less flexible in that space. And really, I pulled this from a different deck from our Chief Operating Officer's deck, but our focus is really just to be our customer's most valued business partner. And my role is not in sales. I don't sell Coca-Cola. I am the group director of category and market insights for Swire Coca-Cola. So my job is to help our retail customers understand the market, understand their consumer, and how to win in their retail spaces in those trends. So my career path, just a little bit. I'm going to go through this very quickly. I got my undergraduate and graduate degree in economics from Texas A&M. I started with H-E-B Grocery, who's one of the best retailer I've ever seen about understanding their customer. They spend 20 years focusing on one city, understanding each neighborhood. And when people talk about HEB, they say, oh, my HEB is the one on the corner over there. When they talk about Walmart, there's like, oh, there's a Walmart over there. But when they talk about HEB, like, it's my HEB. Because HEB understands the customer, the neighborhood, and they tailor their stores to be relevant in those neighborhoods. So, and then from HEB, I went to work for the Coca-Cola Company, supporting Sam's Club as a category advisor and leading their category advisory team. I was offered the opportunity to go to Sam's Club to manage a P&L, to actually run their candy business. It was about $1 billion in sales every year, and just in candy. Just to give you a scope of how big some of these retailers are that you guys are competing against. And from my HEB experience and my Sam's Club experience, learned best-in-class retail strategy from the people who are leading the markets. And then I joined Swire Coca-Cola just under 90 days ago. So when I joined Swire, Rob Gehring, our COO, said, we will be the most data-forward company in the beverage industry. And that's the goal of my team. We're building next-generation data capabilities for our customers, for you all. And our job is to try and be that best-in-class business partner for you all. So, state of the industry. At a 1,000-foot level, the industry is going well. The market is good. There's not a lot of warning signs currently right now in the market. Inflation is within the normal realms of normality. Consumer sentiment hasn't changed. Unemployment is at almost a 50-year low. So, I mean, people are getting jobs. How much food is inflating is, again, within the normal realms. And gas prices are down. So for the consumer, this is all either no change or good news. But the industry and just the economy in general is just in a state of change. And as we think about trade uncertainty and volatility in markets, these have a lot of, these aspects have some people worried, but nothing really has impacted the overall state of the economy. But what is changing, and what I want to get into, is the consumer is changing. And we've heard about it a little bit today already, and I appreciate the previous speakers for talking about millennials. But there's a new focus now. It's the centennials. If you thought you heard a lot about millennials, just buckle up, because from here on out, you're going to be learning a ton about centennials and millennials. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Sorry if this is a little bit small, but the state of convenience retail now we're drilling down from total market into the state of convenience retail. Store count in the industry is not growing. It's flat to declining. Larger chains are acquiring smaller independent and regional chains. And fuel prices and inside sales are both up, which is fantastic for you guys. But trips in total CR are declining by 1%. So we're going to talk about kind of how that, those ways to reinvent yourself and those types of things to drive traffic. And state of rediscovery. I think we saw that this morning with the growlers and the crowlers and the independent distilleries, and people are looking for ways to differentiate themselves, right? To drive traffic, which is the lifeblood of any retail operation, is traffic. So how do you resonate with the population surrounding your retail store? And the industry is S-curve. So the S-curve is essentially, as an industry grows, it eventually it experiences decades of growth and then it levels out. And again, I think this we're in a season of reinvention and of innovation that's going to help fight this curve down and keep the curve moving up. One of the big opportunities, in fact, probably the biggest opportunity, and it's a lot easier said than done, is to convert the people who are at your gas pump to go into your store. And that's why you see a lot of televisions at the pumps and everything trying to promote products and get people in store. So 74% of people who go to fill up do not go into the store. They're there just to fill up. And if you were able to convert 1% more, so from 26% to 27%, if you were able to move that number by 1%, that's $865 million in growth for the CR industry. And on a per store basis, that's almost that's over $5,600 per store. So that point of conversion is worth a lot. And so as you're thinking about your operations, continue to think about how you're getting those people from the pump into your store. And if you're able to do that, then you're going to be very, very successful. Traffic around the retail industry in general is roughly flat. So supers are flat, mass up 1.6, drug down substantially, down 10%. Value flat to down, and club up. Convenience store CR is up. You can see this tick at the very end here. You can see the tick right there. We're bouncing back, but we're still below kind of the traffic levels that we've experienced in the past. So what is the role of non-alcoholic beverages in convenience retail? Well, first, this industry is an enormous industry, okay? I want you to focus on the bottom parts right now. It is 33% larger than the music and entertainment business, and it is roughly the same size as commercial aviation. So as we're talking about NARTD, we're talking about a very mature category that has tons of penetration, highly penetrated with your shoppers. The other thing so it's important because it's large. It's a big part of your business. Another reason why it's important is because it's growing. And as we look at total box versus NARTD sales, you can see that in each channel, NARTD is outpacing total box sales. Now, putting my retailer hat on, that means that this is a growth driver for my business. And what doesn't hurt is that when you look at margins across categories, NARTD is the number one. And this is national data. But packaged beverage, that's what's in your cooler. And then you have your dispensed beverages, so your hot coffee, your cold beverages from your fountain, and your frozen dispensed beverages, which is like your icy. And so you can see the margins there. Your cooler is giving you a 44-45% margin every day on some of your largest categories. So again, putting my retailer hat on, it's like, how do I grow in my largest margin areas, and how do I grow in my high growth areas? And again, traffic is the lifeblood of any retail establishment. And NARTD has the highest penetration among the new generation group, which is the Centennials. 78% conversion with the younger generations. So how are you going to convert the next generation of people who are going to shop at your stores? It's through NARTD. I apologize for this slide in advance. This is an eye chart, more than an eye chart. I already warned the tech folks that there were going to be a couple of these. But this is from an iShop database that Coca-Cola manages. And we surveyed around 9,600 people who shop convenience retail. And this is kind of the demographic page that comes out. So I'm just going to hit a few highlights. This will be available for you guys to download and for you guys to look at a later date. But you're very much male. 61% of the shoppers were male versus 39 female. You're resonating, like I said, with young age groups. It's pretty steady across household incomes and household sizes. Again, I'll let you guys see this more in different format. And this is the other thing that iShop gives us is we track path to purchase. So we ask people, where were you before you went to this convenience retail store? What drove you there? Did you make a list, yes or no? When you went there, did you buy anything else? When you bought something, did you eat it within an hour of purchasing it? And then how often are you going? And then what makes a good experience? So you can see it's actually pretty even. So weekdays are way better than weekends in convenience retail, according to this survey. 72% of shops are on the weekday. And it's pretty evenly distributed across time of day. So you have roughly 33% before noon, before lunch. And then you have about 32 to 33% during from lunch until people go home, and then you have about 30% when people go home. So the time of day, there's not really one time that really spikes when it comes to why people are going. People are going, again, we ask people, what are the top reasons why you go? And of course, number one is fuel. Number two is tobacco, followed closely by number three, carbonated beverages. And then when they get there, the biggest things in their basket, again, fuel, because they're going for fuel. And then carbonated beverages actually edge out tobacco as the second largest item in the basket. And then 70% of items that are purchased in convenience retail are consumed within that hour. So it's very much about something I need right now and something I'm going to consume right away. And then, this shouldn't be any surprise. The big experience drivers are friendly service, clean area, has the assortment that I like, and those types of things. So let's get into beverage trends. Again, I'm sorry for the small print there, but the top bar, this is from Nielsen. And so I got total Nielsen from Total Convenience last 52 weeks. And your growth is at 1.7% as a channel nationally. Beverage is growing 2x that at 3.5%. So it is a growing segment, growing faster than total box. This is, I love this chart. I know for people, it's not easily consumed. But these are the segments within non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages. And this is a bubble chart. The top, so the y-axis, or the up and down, is what percent growth are we seeing? The x-axis is what is that in dollar growth? So you can have a really small segment growing 50%, but the dollar growth that yields from that is very small, right? So this helps you kind of orient yourself on both. And then the size of the bubble is the size of that segment. So how many dollars are in that segment? So if you look at the top right-hand corner, that's purple segment right here, that is energy drink. So energy is the highest volume segment within non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages. And by the way, it's growing at an amazing clip. And when your number one segment is growing 8% on top of 7% on top of 10%, with the previous years, then your category is set up for success in the long term. Carbonated soft drinks is right in the middle here. It's the second largest segment in the category. It is flat. We're going to go into that a little bit more as to what it's driving each of these. Sports drinks, growing, both in percent and in dollars. Your premium water is the same. And these four right here represent 4 of your 5 largest segments within non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages. So 4 out of your 5 segments are either flat to growing year over year, which is just fantastic news for this category. Energy is accounting for almost 80% of the growth in total non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverage sales. Bang, I'm sure you guys have all seen it. It's killing it out there in the market. Okay, it's doing very, very well. It is by far the largest growth driver. So let me orient you here because we're going to have a couple slides like this. The left side are last 52-week growth drivers. So what's growing in this segment? The right side of this graph is your top decliners. Okay? And you'll see that in this chart was just set up this way, that red represents Coke, either it's on our Coke truck, blue represents what's on the Pepsi truck, and then gray is just everybody else. So you can see here that Monster Reign is a big growth driver as well, not nearly as big as Bang. And the Monster trademark in general is down. But with Reign's addition, it kind of makes Monster flat for the year. And in a business that's growing 8%, being flat is just about the same as being down, because that means your competitors are outperforming you. Rockstar, NOS, Full Throttle, all declining. And Red Bull is just plugging away. Red Bull is your largest, it's the largest trademark out there, and it just clips. Nothing's been able to really take the share away from Red Bull. You can see Bang's introduction and its effect on Monster, right? But Red Bull it's had this niche for a while, and what's interesting about that is because they're not really innovating. I mean, they have zero sugar, they have their Red Bull, and then they have the different size cans, but they're not coming out with these amazing new flavors that are sticking, right? Whereas Monster's coming out with a whole lot of new innovation. Some of those stick, some of those kind of go away the next year, sunset the next year. But very interesting to see how Bang, will it continue to grow? Definitely, I think it will. In fact, I think next year it'll be larger than the Rockstar trademark. So it's going to get up there pretty quick. CSD, this is carbonated soft drinks. Okay, so we saw from our bubble chart that it was flat. Well, Coke is growing in carbonated soft drinks. Coca-Cola is up almost 3%, and Pepsi's down almost 6%. So when it comes to what is growing carbonated soft drinks, Coca-Cola is delivering the growth. And the top two trademarks, again, sorry for the small print, are Sprite and Coca-Cola Zero. So Coke Zero. And if you guys remember, this past year, there was a lot of innovation in those two brands. You had your Sprite Lemonade that came out and really drove growth there. You had your Sprite Ginger. Sprite Ginger is coming out this year. You had your Sprite Cranberry for holiday, which again was driving incremental growth. And then your Coke Zero, you had your your orange vanilla, which really kind of was that incremental flavor, really innovating that space. Your largest segment decline is Mountain Dew. And this was honestly surprising to me because I've been in the beverage side, and I took a break from the beverage side, and now I'm back in it. And when I was in the beverage side before, Mountain Dew, man, it just crushed it. Every year was crushing it. New innovation worked, and it resonated. And as you see now, that innovation is kind of tapered off. And it's not, and that's where most of that decline is coming from, is that those innovation SKUs which aren't really repeating. This is something that Atlanta did. You can see the red line is essentially, this is market share for carbonated soft drinks. Red line is Coke, blue line is Pepsi, and the purple line at the bottom is Dr. Pepper. Nationally, we have grown share like crazy. Coca-Cola. And again, I believe it's about that, who is going to stay and innovate in this space. And I think from the previous slide, it's clear that Coke is there to stay and to innovate, and that Pepsi's really took the foot off the gas a little bit when it comes to innovation. So I wondered, hey, does that work for Swire markets as well? So I did this. This is Swire, all measured channels, and you can see that it's the exact same trend. And what's interesting is I said, okay, well, let's just be fair and let's look at a historically blue market, a Pepsi market. Is this trend still matching in the Northwest. So Northwest convenience for a long time has been a blue market, a Pepsi strong market. This is CR Northwest for Swire, for sparkling beverages or carbonated soft drinks. Pepsi was a 13 share point leader just 4 years ago. And over the time, these past 4 years, Coca-Cola now leads in share in the Northwest. And in markets where we had share, so again, this is Arizona now, Arizona, New Mexico, where Coke had, it's a red market, it's always been a red market, but that share gap is just increasing. So no matter what, across the board, when it comes to carbonated beverages, carbonated soft drinks, the Coca-Cola company is driving the growth. And it doesn't matter what market you're in, it doesn't matter what channel you're in, it's the same across the case. So now let's move on to sports drinks. Body Armor is giving sports drinks a much needed boost. Sports drinks has been kind of stale for a long time. And Gatorade this is one area where Pepsi has innovated like crazy, trying to again spark that growth. And honestly, Powerade hasn't innovated as much, and that's a Coke brand. And it really, I think, primed this segment for a competitor. And Body Armor has come in and is growing at a very, very fast pace. In next year or even the year after, it will be bigger than Powerade, which is crazy. And Powerade's trying to do a lot with Powerade Ultra, which is coming out this year, Powerade Water, etc. But the question is, will it resonate? Or have shoppers moved on, right? Base water. This is your Dasani, this is your Aquafina, this is your private label. Base water is declining and will continue to decline. The only segment that is growing is private label. So as you guys are thinking about what to put in your base water sets, again, just know that these brands are declining and will continue to decline. They're going to premium water. Okay, so people are buying much, much more Smart Water, Core, Essentia, those brands. This segment is on fire and will continue to grow. And it's amazing because as we think about legacy premium water brands like Fiji, like Evian, like Voss, the ones who were there first, they're actually declining. Because what's interesting is that these new competitors are coming in with premium packaging to match the legacy competitors, but then they're also coming in with functional benefits to these. So whether it's alkaline alignment, whether it's getting more nutrients from your water, those types of things, the benefit in addition to the premium package drives that growth in this segment. I want to pause here for a second, and I'm actually going to do questions in 2 phases because this is a whole other segment. So does anyone have any questions about what I've talked about when it comes to the role of NARTD in your business or whatever beverage trends that you've seen so far or have questions about? Okay, well, let's just move on. This area, so again, my team, just as a little bit of further background, my team works with convenience retail operators, large store operators, regional chains, sometimes even national chains. And their job, I have one team and they're customer focused. And their entire job is to grow that customer's business faster than the market. If they're not growing beverage sales faster than market, where we have that advisor types relationship, then they're not doing their job correctly. Okay? So notice I didn't say grow Coke sales faster than the market. I want to grow, and Swire wants to grow total beverage sales faster than the market. And now I have a whole team that's just dedicated to that. This is an area, assortment methods. This is the prime area where you guys can outmaneuver your regional and national competition. Why? Because if you're a small retailer, or if you're a regional retailer, probably data analysis and retail strategy kind of analysis, what's happening in the market, what's happening with the consumer, that's not happening. And that's not on your high list of investment initiatives. So there's a huge gap. Once you get to 7-Eleven, then all of a sudden those guys are investing a ton in data and in what is happening with the consumer and how do we make our assortments more localized. But before that level, you really don't have a lot of people who are doing that. And at Swire Coca-Cola, the vision for my team is to be that resource for you all. And that means, in some instances, signing a non-disclosure agreement where we say, hey, you're going to give us access to data that your store has, and that access is going to stay with my team. It's never going to go to sales. We're never going to have conversations about it. We have an NDA. We have a firewall in between our data analytics team and the rest of our organization. Okay? And why does that happen? Why do we do this? Because when we've done it, we've seen phenomenal growth. We've taken this category that we just walked through very quickly is very, very complex, innovating, changing, growing, and a lot of times retail customers, they have the same set 15 years ago that they have today. And they're merchandising the brands and they're flowing their product the same way for the past 10, 15 years as they're doing it today. And the problem is that the customers change. And so when we go in as a strategic advisor with these retail partners, and we have access to their data, and we provide recommendations for how they should proceed and how they should, change their sets to match where the customer's going, we're seeing double-digit growth, easy. And there have been some large store independents that have seen up towards like 30% growth. So that is why we do this. Because if your beverage business is growing 30%, do you think Coca-Cola is going to do okay? I think Coca-Cola will be just fine if your beverage business is growing 30%. That's why we don't need sales. My team, we don't have to worry about aligning what we're doing with sales, because what we do is so disruptive and creates so much growth that we grow on our own. So there are 3 types of assortment methods. One is a cookie cutter approach where you manage to averages. This is where the vast majority of the market is currently. You basically are saying you have a distributor come in, and I used to work very closely with McLean in my old life at Sam's Club. They shipped all of our candy. And I know that they would have their own distributors, and they would go into C-stores and they would say, hey, here's how your whole convenience store should look. From beverage to candy to salty snacks to tobacco, this is how you should assort your convenience store. And what that does is that treats everybody exactly the same. It's saying everyone in every market behaves exactly the same, and that every brand is just as relevant in one market as it is to another market. Now, we've already seen from previous slides that there are some markets where Pepsi's better than Coke, right? And there are some markets where Coke is over 50% share versus Pepsi. So it's all about where you're located and who your customer is. The next approach is segmentation. And we'll get into some examples of what segmentation means. But essentially, we run a very complex model statistical model based on the data that's coming in from your stores and the demographic data surrounding those stores. And we create 5 profiles. And we say your stores will line up within one of these 5 profiles. Okay? And then store-specific assortment, which is instead of one model that we're going to fit every single one of your stores into, each one of your stores is a separate model. And so there's no managing to averages, you're managing to 1 average. Segmentation, you're managing to about 5 averages. Store-specific assortment, you're managing to 0 averages. Does that make sense? So why do businesses manage to the average? It's not because they want to. It's not because they're trying. It's because they have low resources. And they have other segments besides non-alcoholic ready-to-drink beverages to think about. You guys run very complex businesses. You have a lot of demands on your time. And also, you don't have to bring anyone else in. There's no collaboration necessary. You just get it and you set it. And that's it. But the performance here is usually below market performance. When you provide segmentation, you're going to perform at the market level or slightly above, from my experience. And again, segmentation is great. It's so much better than managing to averages. So much better. So that's poor, this is good, and then we'll get to best in just a second. But when you're doing segmentation, there's still limitations. You're still managing to averages in a little bit of a way, but you're hitting more and more of your demographic bases. And it's still easily deployable. The biggest reason, guys, why this one is most used is because it's easy for centralized regional chains to say, okay, we're just going to push down one planogram. And we're going to just ask everyone to set the same thing, because that's easy. Okay? It's harder to have everyone have their own, because then they don't feel like part of the group. Everyone, having managed over nearly 600 clubs, I would always get phone calls from one club that says, hey, this club down the street has this item, I want it. Well, that club down the street is different from your club. And you have a different shopper base. So no, you don't need that item. But we would have those questions all the time. And those conversations, it's just hard. It's hard to share that vision from the central location all the way down, which is why people don't do it. It's hard to execute. This is easier to execute, because then you're still saying you get 1 of 5 planograms. So it's still more complex than just the 1, but now you get 1 of 5. And if you have 5 doors, 6 doors, 7 doors, each one of those 1 of 5 have different variations based on how many doors people have. So how do we segment? Well, you take data, store-level data, demographic data, and then you run statistical analysis based off of how likely and how the affinities of demographics on brand preference. So you do this model, and then you create essentially 5 buckets or clusters of stores. And what this does, this is Chicago, for instance. What this does is this allows you to make more customer-specific assortments for very complex regions. The city of Chicago is very complex. You could walk 3 blocks and be in a totally different part of Chicago than you were just in, which means that store needs a totally different assortment than the store that you just passed 3 blocks ago. So this methodology allows you to do that to some extent. And this is just an example. Again, you'll get this when you, because this will be available to you all, of just some of the profiles that come out through segmentation. So melting pot is a high mix of ethnicities. You have high Hispanic. You have a good range of incomes. It is a high high number of people in each household. It's very urban and very suburban. Okay? And this is just an example. Mid-scale, and this is for Arizona, a CR chain that we did for Arizona. Mid-scale, conventional, comfortable, teen or young adult. Again, you can see that each has a different profile, and each profile has different brand preferences. Some are more one profile might prefer diet sodas, while others don't like them at all. And again, so that will adjust how you assort in your stores. And then again, store-specific assortment. From the examples that I showed you and from before, you understand that this is much higher performance versus what you're seeing in the market. Because you're not managing to averages. There are no outliers that you haven't considered. Because every store has its own specific model. And the reason why this doesn't happen more is because it takes more time. You utilize a lot of resources doing it. And you need a high collaboration with a strategic partner. And that's hard. That's not easy. And then it's difficult for retailers to execute because, again, if you're a chain and you have 300 stores, that means you have to get 300 unique modulars or planograms to those stores for them to execute. That is hard. Okay? And there's always going to be confusion because my store is going to look differently than their store. And you're just going to get a lot of questions that way. So, but again, like I said before, at Swire Coca-Cola, we have the resources and the expertise to take our customers' assortment and move them from where they are now to best in class. So that's all that I did. If there's any questions, yes, in the back.
If you're showing growth in the carbonated soft drink category.
You're talking about Coca-Cola specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
Where we live, 10 miles from the Canadian border, mm-hmm. Pepsi has a huge, they represent a huge part of the market there.
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed when I did a lot of analysis on our sales was that Coke is number one, then why does Pepsi have most of the space? So I made the leap after, watching the sales to make Coke number one in the store, but don't have the support. So if you're expecting...
From your sales rep, you mean? Or from your...
In general, because the Pepsi team in our area, they have a team. So any needs I have 5 people to call. With Coke, because there isn't that much representation there, I don't know how growth is expected if the support is not there.
Are you talking about service levels specifically? So like they take care of you from a service perspective. From sorry? From the district manager down. Okay.
Yeah. So
well, that's fair.
I mean, we're building a brand new store, and I really pushed for Coke we just built a store, opened in April. I pushed for Coke to be number one in our store, and that happened. So, but when there is no support really, because I remember 10 years ago when I started, Coke had a bigger presence, but slowly their team has moved down south or something. So it's... That's
interesting. Where are you located?
10 miles from the border, Canadian border, up in Washington State.
Washington State, though. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, well, let's connect, John.
So one of the things, too, and Walton Beverage up there is very strong. We realize that. We've been in the process of building a new facility up in Arlington, and and that's going to open this spring. It should be slated to open this spring. So we're going to take a lot of that Bellevue business in the north end. The line is up, I think, 164th and Everett. So anything from 164th up to the Blaine, up to Canada, is going to be serviced out of Arlington. Here later this year, we will move our sales folks up out that service the north end will be out of Arlington. We're gonna move merchandising folks that will be out of Arlington instead of everything being out of Bellevue. So it will improve. We just gotta get there. We just gotta keep moving to a place where we can get there.
So-
Place in Walker County now, we can't even get numbers. Aaron won't even return phone calls or emails. It's more than just your location. It's your management.
I think this is a great discussion, and I think that service is important, and I know I'm not in sales again, but I do want to connect you with the right people so that you guys can yeah, I get it. Let us help you try a little bit harder, and let us help you get to the people that will actually be able to make something change for you guys. Okay, so please find me. Both of you, please. I'd like to get your names, your numbers. I'd like to get your locations, and you will have someone follow up with you. Okay? And you had a question. Yeah. So from that's a great, and I know you guys are just opening one right around here, right? So what we would do is we would use, we have all the shipment data. And for you guys, it'd be Reyes. But Reyes has the data for what sells around your store. And then we would layer that on top of the market data that we get from Nielsen. And we can say, okay, these are the brands that are resonating in the market. And then these are the brands that are resonating in your geography, right? And then we essentially would triangulate those to create the assortment that would work best for you. And then we would hopefully, if you were a retail customer of ours that you were partnering with, we would then follow up with you ongoing to make sure that that assortment's working for you. And if it doesn't, and if some assumptions that we made didn't pan out, we'd make changes accordingly. Well, Monster's from the West, and they hear it. They're based out of California, right? And they hear it. They're innovating. I think you're going to see Rain coming, and that's going to compete with Bang and those guys. But I know that these guys aren't going to be happy with some of their performance and some of their market share. So, yeah. But they're a very innovative company, and I don't have line of sight into what their innovation pipeline looks like, but I know that they're a very innovative company and that they'll figure that we do. Absolutely.
All right, we're going to thank you, David.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, David.